Good to go? All right, how you doing, Mr. Williams?
I'm doing great. Fabulous.
Good, good. What is your full name?
Daniel Edward. Daniel Edward Williams, but I think to go by Danny. So for purposes of this interview, let's go with Danny. I'm always comfortable with that.
Awesome, awesome. I love it. Where do you come from?
Actually, born in St. John's, and I've lived in St. John's since the day I was born. I've been, of course, all over the province. The nice thing is that being premier of the province, you get to see each and every part of it. But my family are originally from a community called Bay Bulls on the southern shore of Newfoundland.
Excellent, excellent. How long did you live here in Corner Brook as MHA?
Well, I was here, let's see, back in 2000. I guess I was probably 7 years here as an MHA, and I got to say I thoroughly enjoyed it. I was elected in the by-election, and that was one that was done in conjunction with the Portagrave by-election. And I remember coming out here for the first time, and people had said to me, like, why are you going to run a Corner Brook? Like, you're a townie, you're from St. John's, it's not going to work. People aren't going to wrap their arms around you. And people at Corner Brook have been absolutely fabulous the first day I got here, and I hope we get a chance to talk about it. But when I first came here, I'd been to Corner Brook lots of times before. I've been here as a visitor on business, played hockey here. But only when I came here in a public capacity that I really realised the true beauty and capability of Corner Brook and what was in store for the future here. Cool. And saw a huge potential here, to be quite honest with you.
All right, hopefully we'll touch on that. Aside from being MHA, why did you stay?
Stay
in the area, in Corner Brook?
Well, I got a bond with the people. I came to describe it as my second home, and that's not just to be political and hokey and folksy and everything else. It really was. When I came out here, I felt warm, I felt welcome, and I also felt that this city was a part of me. And I kind of personally, as a Newfoundlander and Labradorian, resented the fact that everything was sort of geared towards St. John's. It was all St. John's, St. John's. Everything was happening in St. John's. We've got this beautiful West Coast that's very lucrative in resources and human resources as well, not only natural resources. I kind of thought there's an imbalance happening in this province. We need to start to balance up the West Coast with the East Coast so that we've got more equal distribution around the province, equal distribution of wealth and financial resources. So, I came to embrace it and love the place, and I got it back to the people here.
Off the cuff right now, do you think that's happening, that balance between the East and West?
I think it's starting to happen. There's a natural movement towards St. John's because it's a capital city, but also because a significant part of the offshore is happening there.
Yeah.
However, when you look at the potential over here on the West Coast, not only do we have the forestry and the natural resource that sustained the West Coast for a long time, you've got the natural beauty here and the tourism side. And, of course, we as a government, when I was in government, put a lot of money into tourism. Our ads are world-renowned. They're internationally claimed as the best in the world. And a big part of it is what you see here on the West Coast. So from that perspective, that's enriched the province. As well, I'm also a big believer that there is petroleum, there is natural gas, there is oil off this coast, whether it's inland or whether it's offshore. I think it will be found, and I think that'll help. Now, that doesn't mean that, we've got to balance the world on oil, because it's a non-renewable resource and it depletes. However, it does help if you're trying to get infrastructure in place and you're trying to get people drawn to an area. The fact that there's something happening in that particular area certainly helps.
Excellent. Okay. From your position as MHA and Premier, what is the unique view of Corner Brook that you had during your term?
I just find it, I even said today, as I was driving into the interview, it's such a beautiful, unique city in itself. The mountains, the bowl that it rests in, the hills at this particular time of the year, as the leaves are starting to change. I've spent some time in Humber Valley and drove in, of course, and I had a drive in along the river. Is, I think, one of the most spectacular in the country, and I've always thought so when I was coming here tens of years ago. But it is a very, very special place, and I think, what we're seeing now is we're seeing some reasonable development here in Corner Brook. It's rapid enough, but it's not too fast. But it's starting to make it a more modern city, and I think that'll attract more people. What I do think is important this week is the whole leadership conference, the youth conference. I think it's important that our young people are not only coming here, but they're staying here, they're starting families here, they're going to enrich the place themselves by just being here. So that's very, very important. And I think, Corner Brook has a lot to offer to young people and to young families, but it's incumbent upon all of us who've been involved in public life to diversify the opportunities here.
What growth have you seen since you became MHA in 2001 in the area over the last 10 years?
Well, the tourism growth has been huge when you drive by the Humber Valley Resort, and you see the different establishments that have gone up from a tourism perspective, as well as you start to come into the city of Corner Brook and you see the new retail development that's gone on here. You can see it in the homes, you can see it in the houses. I mean, there's, people I think are feeling better about themselves. I think there's more wealth in the province. I think as a result, over the course of the last 7 years since we've been in government, I think, Corner Brook has really raised itself up. When I first got here, I remember having a round table with think tanks and talking to people and saying, look, the potential here is enormous. You've got to seize it. You've got all the natural beauty, you've got the brain power here, but nobody seems to have brought it together. But, I think, through, good municipal government here and through the provincial government and working with the municipal leaders that have been here, I think as a result, I think it's made a difference. And, hopefully it'll continue on.
Where do you think we can go from here?
Nowhere to go with that. There's absolutely no doubt about it. I mean, it's, the university is a big part of it. We wanted to make sure that Grenfell grew. We wanted to make sure, however, that it didn't become too independent and too autonomous so that it couldn't survive. Yeah. The big brother in St. John's helps a little bit because Memorial's infrastructure does help. However, we do want to give it a West Coast independence in thinking the way that the university is run. So I think we've tried to do both. And as well, what we did at the time is put a lot of money into marketing because we want to get the enrollment up here. We want to get the numbers up. And of course, as well, what we've done is, investing in infrastructure at the college as well. So I think if that becomes a major centre, that'll be a catalyst and I think a lightning rod for growth here in the area.
Absolutely. Students, wonderful thing. All right, okay. That covered all of that. Awesome. All right, so we're going to move on now to social networking. As far as I know, you don't have a Twitter or Facebook account, do you? No official.
What's a Twitter? Tell me what a Twitter is.
Awesome.
Can I get one at Walmart? If I could buy one at Walmart, I'd probably go.
Can't buy it at Walmart. It's online. You go and you sign up. And what it is, it's 140 characters of just the status that you post all the time.
Gotcha.
And it's a great way to connect with, fans of your new ice caps. People underneath, I'm sure you get a lot of followers.
So I tweet them, right? I tweet them.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
You can add people specifically. That's my really quick pitch right now. It's a great...
no, I have to tell you, I'm not going to be a coy with you. I haven't actually, to be quite honest with you, I haven't had the luxury of, there have been some Facebook pages that have been started in my name, but I haven't done them, which is, quite an honor, quite frankly, but by the same token, I haven't participated. I find the social networking part, I was so busy while I was Premier that I couldn't engage as much as I wanted to because I just didn't have the time to do it, which is sad. But as I've, moved now back into private life, I just got an iPad and, once I spent the first 2 hours chasing the screen around to figure out how I could get it to stop, it works really well. I'm looking to really like it. BlackBerry, I'm addicted to my BlackBerry. It had been for years. So I'm not completely electronically numb, but by the same token, I'm starting to grow into a modern age because I need it. And if I'm going to interact with young people and everybody else in the world, then I have to do it.
So can we expect a Twitter page soon?
Not soon, but you'll probably get one. As soon as I can learn to control myself as to what I'm going to say, then I'll probably do it.
So it's another thing. I always thought that possibly it was a personal choice because you were afraid that you would say something off the cuff and that it would be taken the wrong way and that sort of thing. But no, it's just haven't had the time.
That, quite frankly, when you're in public life, for me, was part of it. I don't need to be that spontaneous because God knows what I can say. But by the same token, I think it's a very, very worthwhile medium, and I will use it now. Whether that'll be in the immediate future, but over time, will.
Awesome. All right, so moving on to the aforementioned ice caps, pretty big deal for St. John's. Obviously, how do you think it's going to affect the rest of the province?
Well, I can give you a quick answer on that. I leave here this afternoon at 3 o'clock and I drive to Gander for an exhibition game. That the ice caps are actually in Gander. They did a fundraiser on Wednesday night in Gander for the 9/11 group.
Yeah.
They went to Grand Falls last night and played in Grand Falls. They're playing in Gander tonight. So, I want to make this a provincial team. It's called the St. John's team because it's actually based in St. John's, but the ice caps was intended to represent the province. And if you look at the logo, of course, that's the symbol for the team. It's got the map of Newfoundland and Labrador on it, and the tip of Labrador and the tip of Newfoundland are the ice cap. Yeah. And so I truly want to make it a provincial team. And actually, we were going to have a game in Corner Brook, but Corner Brook was so busy we couldn't actually get the rink during the time that we needed. So that's a good thing. It means Corner Brook is busy. But by the same token, we'll get this team with these nice blue and white colours on their jerseys back to Corner Brook.
Awesome. I look forward to that. That's going to be a great time. What made you think that now is a good time to bring a team back to the island?
Well, it wasn't that it was a good time. I just felt it was something that was necessary. I couldn't do it while I was in politics. I couldn't do it while I was Premier. I had several people approach me on getting a team back here, but I said, no, I can't while I'm in government. And then as soon as I got freed up, I got approached by someone who came to me and said, actually, Glenn Stanford, who said, look, I think we have a chance at a team and possibly an affiliation with Winnipeg. At that time, they were looking at Phoenix. They didn't get Phoenix, but they got Atlanta. That worked out really well because Atlanta became Winnipeg, who played Ottawa in St. John's last week in the Craft hockey little game, which was... So all the stars kind of lined up. But, the province is certainly, ready for the hockey team again, just as any part of the province. I mean, we're a hockey-loving province, Newfoundland and Labrador. So, it worked. And because of, I think, the new affluence that's in the province, people don't mind supporting it. And, of course, in St. John's now, we'll be at about 90% sold out before the year starts. And I think once we start selling the single ticket games, we'll have sellout games for most of them.
Awesome. Why the ice caps?
Well, I was trying to capture, a lot of people wanted to call it the St. John's Capitals, but if we did that, then you go back to the old rivalries of the Royals and the Flyers, and people would just see as a St. John's team. I wanted to bring the ice side in because, we've got the icebergs on the tourism side, we've got the ice cap mountains on the West Coast and the skiing and everything else. We've got, iceberg vodka and iceberg water and all kinds of products that come from here. And also, I saw the province as ideally positioned for Arctic research in the future. And so anything I can do to enhance and promote us as a province and be able to do it in 30 American cities, which are part of the league, then I think that's just great bang for the buck for the province from a tourism perspective. So that was a big part of it as well.
Awesome. Good. Okay, now, moving on to online again. You're pretty popular. When you get a Twitter account, you'll realize this. Mostly because of your 22-minute sketches, which I want to touch on. How did they come about? Because they're so awesome.
Well, I got to tell you, humor is such an important part of life. And even before I was in politics, I always like to try and bring some humor into speeches. When I got in politics, I had to cut back a little bit because you got to be careful you don't cross any fine lines and offend anybody, because sometimes in humor you can get a little carried away. Yeah. But when Rick Mercer and then in 22 minutes, Mark Critch and company approached me and said, look, we'd like to do something. I said, yes, I'd love to. Mm-hmm. And we had a lot of fun doing that. I can tell you, the interesting thing is, we usually got all of those on the first take. There was never 3 or 4 or 5 takes. We just sat down and I said, what do you want to talk about? And before we got a camera, he'd say, here's what we're going to do. And we'd ad-lib it and we'd go at it. And, but, they're such talented people. They're such great ambassadors for Newfoundland and Labrador. And it's because they're funny, but they're also so natural and genuine. I mean, the rapport that I have with Critch and with Rick Mercer has been just tremendous. God, we laughed. We really laughed when we did it.
Yeah, it looked like it was a lot of fun, especially the Godfather bit. Critch has a pretty impressive impression of you. Do you have one of him? Aside from the one that you did on the air that time.
No, I did one of Rex Murphy at one point in time, but I've never bothered to try and do Mark, only because I'm afraid of what he'll do back. But and it's a good thought, because at some point, it may be worth doing. I mean, I've gone through airports and people will go, hello, Mark, and call out to me on the other side of the airport. And, so the experiences I've had across the country have been really funny. But we did an interesting one with Dan Aykroyd about 3 or 4 months ago in St. John's, and we did a talk show format, like a Letterman type of format. Yeah. What a funny experience that was. It was incredible. And of course, we had Aykroyd in between the two of us, and it was 11 o'clock on a Friday night, and it was a lot of fun. Sounds like it.
Okay. When is your when's your appearance on Republic of Doyle coming?
I don't know. I haven't been asked. At one point there last year, they were looking at doing a cameo appearance, but at that time I was still premier of the province, so it may have made it awkward. I wouldn't care, but but hopefully I'll get asked. I'd love to do it at some point in time. I'll just have to wait till Alan Hawco company give me a call.
Official offer there, Alan Hawco. All right. So at the end of the People in Our Neighborhood, we have a couple of gag questions right now. What's your favorite food?
Bacon.
I love it.
Nice, healthy food. I love my breakfast. I love my bacon and eggs.
Beautiful. What's your favorite song?
My favorite song is Tom Petty, Don't Back Down, is one I like.
Love it. What's your favorite color?
Color blue. Used to be red when I was a kid, actually, but I got over that.
Why blue after red?
Well, it's blue. First of all, blue is a color that I've worn on hockey teams, but blue is the color of the Progressive Conservative Party, and I tend to like it. And someone told me it matches my house.
Oh, it actually does. I'm looking now. I never noticed that.
That's when they're not red.
Awesome. All right. And finally, how's it feel to be a private citizen again?
It feels great. I enjoy private life, and I was a reluctant bride into public life. I hadn't planned on going into public life. And then, the opportunity opened up, and I kind of said to myself, look, if I don't do this, I may regret not doing it, and I may have something to offer. So talked myself into running, and those were 10 fabulous years. I got to tell you, what I do miss is the people. I miss the campaign because I like campaigning, because people, love interacting with people. But I don't miss the nonsense and the baloney and the bull that goes on in politics. So I'm glad to be rid of that, and I do enjoy private life.
You're good. Well, enjoy it. You've earned it, and thank you very much
Pleasure.
for all this.
It's a pleasure.
One final thing, is there anything you'd like to say to the readers of cornerbrooker.com?
Well, I just, from a perspective of having this particular show in this particular community, I think you're very fortunate. I think this is one of the nicer places on earth, and I really mean that. I'm not looking up the game with this. I'm not running for council here. I'm not going back into politics, federally or provincial, at any time at all. But this is a wonderful place, and I intend in future to spend a little more recreation time here. It seems that every time I've come here, I've always been on business, or I had a duty, or I had a speech to give, and to do some interviews. But I'm going to start really fully enjoying what the West Coast and Corner Brook has to offer. So I think your viewers are very, very fortunate to live in this place.
Awesome. All right, thank you very much.